Okay, we're into week 3, and hope everyone had a restful or at least a pleasurable weekend. And so we are now really getting into full swing in this class as we investigate the different dimensions of teamwork, team building, team effectiveness, and really in the end, why would we do teams at all, right? Well, we're into this week a couple of really critical topics in that regard. The first one, chapter 5, we're taking a look at cooperation and competition, which certainly there is a tension between those two. I would suggest that the real challenge for teams is to foster the creative tension that comes between cooperation and competition. A team that is incredibly cooperative, well, for the most part, we could expect that team to enjoy being together and get along well, and certainly take some emotional comfort in the level of cooperation that they're able to build, and that is clearly a terrific outcome for a team. However, competition has as Levy would tell us, competition has an equally important goal, because competition is what helps to now create that creative tension that leads teams towards the best possible outcomes. And so I would, when we think about competition, there is competition for recognition, there's competition for rewards. And Levy talks about how it's critical for teams to work out what those rewards are, and so that because teams cooperate on ultimate outcomes, the success of the team is really the sum product of the work of all the individuals on a team. That is, as long as no social loafing's going on, and so. Again, competition really has some great benefit, great value for teams. I guess the question is just think for a minute for yourself, what really motivates you? Are you more motivated by a calm, cooperative environment, or are you more motivated, not that you wouldn't appreciate cooperative scenarios, are you more motivated by competition? In my experience, there are two things that tend to drive that. One is what is the culture, what's valued in the culture, what gets recognized in the culture. But more importantly, we really do have different personalities, and some of us just tend to be more competitive than others. I speak from experience when I say that. And that's been both good and less good for me in my corporate career. So again, rewards, getting the correct rewards built, the correct reward structure is something that helps us mitigate maybe some of the downside of competition, and also round off the desire to be so super cooperative on the other hand, because again, it's that mix of the two that makes teams more effective. It's the mix of the two that drives you towards better understanding of what the challenges are and better solutions, which in the end, good solutions are what teams strive for. You'll notice that under the lecture section that I was going to do it last week but forgot, added the Tuckman model. Levy talked about Tuckman last week, but also for your review and something you might cut out and put up in your work area, the Tuckman model. And you might recall that it has two dimensions, relationships and task. One, relationships, tends to be more cooperative in nature, where task tends to be oriented to getting the work done and competing to get that work done. So you see that cooperative, competitive framework fitting right into the Tuckman model, and to some extent, that's really what drives the forming, storming, norming, and performing stages that hopefully your teams have gone through. Just because you're together and you might fit all of the criteria of what a team is, doesn't really necessarily mean that you're going to get to that performing stage. one of the other things that comes from, I think, from getting that creative tension balance is that it ends up being a motivator. We talked a lot last week or week before about motivation, and so this is just another driver for that. There's a couple times in here where Levy talks about the factor of trust, which is first and foremost probably the most important ingredient in any team, both in the short term and in the long duration that a team is together. And you'll see a lot of that in Lencioni's book here in a couple of weeks. So just a few comments that I wanted to make. There is a little assessment on pages 98 and 99. I would ask you to go ahead and go through that and maybe speak to that in your discussion post this week. So, and look for somebody who maybe post a little different take on that assessment than you do. So that's it for Chapter 5, Cooperation. Chapter 6, Communication, really does fall right on the heels of this. This is a great week with these topics that are so complementary and so necessary for good team performance.